Hi everyone and welcome back to the Inner Real Estate Rental Reform session. My name is Anthony and joined with me today is Maya from our office. Welcome, Maya.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be talking everything advertising and disclosure. So a lot of changes are happening in this sort of space, from requesting more rent all the way down to now disclosure statements being given to tenants before signing a lease agreement, and also to the point of what we can ask for on an application. So Maya, the first part around advertising and then selling and requirements, there's been some changes about the rental prices and what we can and can't do.
Exactly.
Do you want to just touch on that briefly in that sense?
So basically now for us to advertise a property, we must put a fixed price on the rental advertisement. So unfortunately, we cannot just put saying that, oh yeah, I'm advertising this property and expect someone would like to apply between $300 per week to $350. This is the kind of price that rental providers are looking for. And also we are not encouraged, and we may not ask for higher rentals. So if we have already advertised for a fixed price, $300 per week, for example, or $400 per week, then we cannot encourage or giving hints to the tenant saying that they're high. Would you like to put higher rental? Because that's just part of the rental regulation checks, basically, to give extra protections for the renters.
So I think that was one thing that came up a lot when the market was probably a lot more buoyant than what it is now. So you'd have tenants and sometimes agents saying to applicants, look, there was 30, 40 people at a rental inspection, multiple applications. So, put in a higher rental and your chances would be, better at getting that. We probably don't have that issue now, but when the market does return and prices increase, tenants can still offer though more, can't they? Without us saying anything. If a tenant wants to offer 400, let's say, and the rent was 350, they can do that.
Technically, the offer should come from them, not from us, and we're not supposed to drop in hints as well for them. But normally, I guess, if the tenants or the renters, I should say, that they really love that particular property, they would like to move to that property immediately. They saw how many people inspected the property, so it's very common for them to come with that kind of offer just to secure the tenancy. Yeah,
and we can't use words like from anymore. So we can't say rental from 300 per week or rent between 300 to 330. It needs to be a fixed rental.
Yeah.
Can we not have a rental price?
I guess not the case. If you need to put a fixed price, so you do need to tell the prospective renters how much you expect to advertise this property, and for them to submit an application as well.
You always probably want to advertise a price anyway, because you're going to get people there to it. So moving on to the new requirements on a rental application, this has been some big changes, and I guess for a lot of rental providers, they want to know as much information as possible. So now we're a little bit restricted in the information that we can request from potential renters.
Correct. We must not discriminate to our prospective renters. Now, when you say discrimination, it's also including the age, the gender, the disability as well. Now, not supposed to ask about the history of the bond as well, unfortunately. So if we need to contact another agency for rental reference, technically, we're not supposed to ask whether the bond was fully refunded. That's part of the discriminations regulations as well that they apply. That's basically the most changes. I know that it's kind of tricky when they said that it's not supposed to disclose age, given that normally, even for us to register the tenancy details to water authority, they will ask that questions anyway. You do need to provide and confirm about the identities of the tenant. And they will ask whether you have already seen their IDs. That you need to include that on the application form. However, I guess that when you need to provide the information to the rental provider, I guess you need to omit sometimes people have the tendencies just to ask what's their occupation, where they come from, things like that. So that kind of questions now need to be avoided altogether.
Yeah, and I think one other one was around bank statements and those sorts of things. So we actually can't ask for those either.
Correct. You can still ask about the current balance, just to see that whether this tenant's going to be able to afford the rent. But we're not supposed to ask like the day-to-day transactions details. Basically, we're not supposed to see that.
And we can still ask for pay slips and those sorts of things.
Exactly.
Yep. And I think that will probably bring back the old school rule of thumb of the 33%. So the rent being 33% of the income. I think that's probably going to be used a lot more now than when we probably would look at their bank statements and see a surplus of funds in there and think, well, maybe they can afford a little bit extra. They might be able to afford half their rental income, half their income going towards the rent because they've got the surplus funds there. We might need to obviously change the way we look at applications too, and just see from more of an affordability perspective rather than just assuming that they've got money sort of sitting there on the account. That's going to be obviously an interesting one because, as you said, some rental providers, want to know and love to know as much as they can about
the background of the rent.
And it makes our job, I guess, a little bit trickier because we're not able to ask about bonds and previous sort of rental history to a certain extent. So we'll find ways in doing that. We're still able to ask a lot of questions and find out a lot about the potential renter that is applying for your property. So I don't think it's completely private information. There will be some stuff that we'll be able to get from them to make an informed decision on whether they are going to be the right and the suitable occupant for the property. The last sections, there is a bit to sort of go through in this one here with the new disclosure requirements. So under the new rental laws, rental providers must disclose important information to the renters before signing a rental agreement. Now, this is an interesting one. Might want to sort of touch on this a little bit on what we have to disclose to, and rental providers have to disclose to potential renters?
Yeah, actually, the new rental regulations request us to give new disclosure statement to our prospective renters. If they ask the questions, then we need to be able to provide it immediately to them. We are encouraged to get our rental provider to answer the questions. However, given that we have a significant numbers of properties that being owned by overseas investors as well, sometimes we do need to assist them to answer the questions. So the questions from the basic one to the ones that's very specific to not only the building, but also to the apartments. The ones that they can easily answer, perhaps like whether the rental provider has any intention to sell the property, whether they have already engaged an agent to sell the property, about the mortgage, about the prospective new developments that's going to happen next door, about the basic ones and the main changes as well about the electrical safety check, about the gas appliances check, and also about the smoke alarms. Now we need to disclose to our new renters when the last time we already done the check. If it's not been done, then when can we expect that to happen? One of the other specific questions that was asked as well about asbestos. Now, I got a rental provider before. He purchased this property not long ago. He moved into the property, and then after that, he rent out the apartment. Now, one of the feedback that we got from him is the question asked, do you know whether this property has asbestos or not? Or has it been checked by someone who registered to check it? Now, he answered yes. So, of course, my question is oh, hang on a minute. It's your apartment doesn't have an asbestos. Why you answer yes? Because the next question asks has someone checked it? And the answer is yes, someone's registered has already checked it, confirmed there's no asbestos for the apartment and for the building. So sometimes this kind of disclosure statement and questions kind of tricky as well for us to answer. It's just we do need to provide yes or no answers.
Yep.
But because one statement and the next question sometimes the answer is yes and no. So we do need to guide and advise our renters as well. This is the answer, but it just doesn't indicate that this apartment has an asbestos, but we just would like to confirm someone has already checked it for you, and we have the details through the building management as well.
Yep.
The other things about the embedded utilities connections, that's part of the new regulations that we need to disclose it to our new renters. We are encouraged to disclose the information as early as possible. Sometimes we can put it on the advertisements as well. It's just because, like, most of our apartment buildings, mainly in the Melbourne CBD as well, they do have embedded utilities connection or embedded networks. If those informations are not disclosed to the tenant, sometimes they just can be a little bit upset because they have already prepped the moving outs. Like they expect this kind of utilities connection can be transferred, carry over to their new place. Now they need to do a proper transitions. The rate's going to be different, things like that. So we need to disclose to our new renters as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think all that is, there's a lot to sort of unpack in that, but there's the embedded network is a big one, because a lot of people want to have that flexibility of obviously their own provider and shop it around and that. And I know from a sales perspective, when we're selling these properties, always comes as a bit of a shock to someone when they say, you can only use one provider for electricity or even internet in some buildings, or only one provider. So, there's a lot there. This is for any our rental providers that are watching this. We need full disclosure from you, and as much of this. Now, there's probably going to be some questions here that our rental providers won't know and won't know the answer to. And I'm sure building managers and owners corporations have been sort of helpful. I mean, they're probably there under the pump as much as what we are at the moment, answering it, and then they'll probably be able to answer those common building questions. But there are some stuff that's specific to the apartment that we would need to know and find out. And then obviously, especially the ones around sort of selling, and if there is an intent to sell the property, or if the property's on the market, we have to sort of let them know as well. Sometimes you can sort of see it from a renter's perspective. They don't want to be moving into a property and then knowing that, open for inspections are going to start up again, and that client enjoyment is going to be affected from that. So, look, Maya, there's a lot obviously there that's come in, a lot of new stuff.
Yes.
I know a lot of the changes that have happened have been sort of tweaks and interpretations of current Residential Tenancy Act, and they've just obviously changed those. This is completely new and a little bit sort of different from us in rentals, that we've never had to sort of do this before. So it's been a little bit of getting our heads around it. I know all our property managers have been extremely busy trying to make sure that all their new properties are doing that. I think you might have spoken about it there, but we have to disclose if the gas and electricity has been tested in the last 2 years, or that it's booked in for a test.
For the safety check, that's part of the requirement for us to disclose on the disclosure statement. Not only that, including the rental minimum standards. So luckily, most of all of the properties, in fact, that we manage, have already met the rental minimum standards. But it is very important for our rental provider to follow the new regulations regarding the electrical and gas safety check. This kind of information is provided to us from Consumer Affairs, but to the very minimum standard as well. So far, we have already spoken to many of our rental providers, even those they based in Melbourne. Sometimes they still have not heard about this as well, because it's not widely communicated. Most of the time, the renters get the information how and what kind of flexibility that they can expect with the new regulations change. But unfortunately, with our rental providers, with the new obligations that we need to meet and commit to, it's not widely advised. So part of the question as well, the disclosure statements, whether there's a homicide in the property before happens the past 5 years. That's part of the question as well. Whether it's a registered place under the Heritage Act. That's the main questions that we need to answer, basically.
Beautiful. Well, Maya, thank you so much for today and giving up your time. We'll be back next week for another episode in this series. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out at us at any time, or to your property manager. We're here to help. And if we don't know, the answer, we're sure to get it to you in a timely fashion. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.
And thank you for the team behind the camera as well that are helping out to put all this together. So thanks everyone so much, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.